Hi everyone, welcome to One-on-One Tug of War. Now most of us know what a tug of war is, and probably most of us have participated in one at one time or another, and they can be a lot of fun. However, they can also lead to some injuries, and they can be dangerous at some times. Now, aside from that, right now, stuck in your house with just the people in your family, we're not going to be able to make teams. So we're going to teach you a one-on-one tug of war that my students really enjoy at school. So what are you going to need? In a one-on-one tug of war, you're going to need a rope. Now, that's one of the first things that can cause injuries. I have special ropes that I purchased that are very soft and will not cause rope burns. Now, if you have a rope that's very hard, it can cause some burns. So hopefully you have a rope that's nice and soft. But if you don't, here's a couple things you can do. Number one, wear some gloves. Okay, if you have gloves, you're much less likely to get a rope burn. Okay, the other thing you can do is not use a rope. So you can do this with something like a beach towel or a sheet. Just roll it up. That's all I did here. It's a little hard to tell, but we just rolled it up, and now basically we have a big, giant rope that's not going to burn your hands. Okay, so that is another thing we can do. Now, let's talk about the way that people often get injured. In a team tug of war, if you're the person on this side and I have 50 people behind me, probably not that many, and we start losing and I trip and fall and all those people get pulled over me, I could get hurt. Now, since we're not playing on teams, we don't have to worry about that. The other way people get injured is self-imposed a lot of times. People make bad decisions in their tug of war, and they do things like wrap the rope around their hands thinking, oh, this makes me stronger. And it does. The problem is when your team lets go of the rope and the other team keeps pulling, they're going to pull this the rope, and it's going to constrict around your hand, and it can actually break your hand. It can do some very bad damage or definitely cause some rope burns. So we never ever wrap the rope around your hand. You're just going to hold it in your hands just like this. So that way, if you let go, nothing happens except you let go of the rope. All right. The other thing that people do, and this tends to be in the team battles, is they wrap the rope around their waist. And again, for similar reasons, you can get rope burns, you can get crushed. So we never wrap the rope around our body of any part, just hold the rope and you should be fine. All right, now how do we play one-on-one tug of war? Now we're going to incorporate strength, which is usually what we're focusing on a tug of war. You're trying to be stronger than the other team, and often we'll play where you have to pull a team across a line or a marker. Okay, but in one-on-one tug of war, it's a little bit different, and we're going to incorporate balance into it. And this will help equal it out a little bit, because if you have somebody who's much bigger and much stronger than the other player, they're going to win every time if it's just a battle of strength. But in this version, we're going to have bases. Each player will have a base that they have to stand on. So you're standing on your base and you're holding your rope. And there's two ways you can lose this battle. One, if you let go of the rope, you lose. Now I want to be very clear on letting go of the rope versus, this is a strategy again, if you're not the stronger, bigger player, if you give the rope, here's a way you can win, because I have to stay on my base. So again, red base here, my feet are on it and they barely fit. So I'm not going to be able to use my whole body to pull. I'm just going to have to keep my feet still and use my arm strength here. Now, if any part of my foot leaves the base, then I lose the battle. So here's where that strategy I talked about can come into play. If that person is pulling, and I give them rope, they may fall backwards. Okay, so let's pretend I'm pulling, and that person gives me rope. Oh, I might fall backwards and leave the base. So I lose the battle that way. Okay, so those are the basic rules. All right, everyone, Mrs. B has joined us now for version 1. Now I'm going to walk you through different versions of this to show you how, if one player has a size and weight advantage, you can counteract that a little bit. So in version 1, we're both equal players. Each of us has a small base to stand on. Remember, if any portion of your body leaves the base, you lose. Or if you let go of the rope completely, you lose. But don't forget, you can give a little, and that's a good strategy if you're smaller. All right, so we're going to both pick up the rope, and we want an equal amount of rope, basically. So right now Mrs. B has a little more than I do, so I would pull a little towards me. It doesn't have to be exactly equal, but we want it to be relatively equal. And we also want to make sure that there's a little bit of tension, or that the rope is what we call taut. If it looks like this when you start your battle, you're not going to have a good battle, because as soon as you pull, you're going to start falling backwards. So you want to make sure it is level. Now also make sure that you want to have your arms in front of you probably. I've noticed Mrs. B has a tendency to have her arms here. This will not give her much strength to pull with. You want to pull generally in a tug of war with your arms and your legs. Because we're on the base, we're not going to be able to use our legs much, so you want to maximize your arm power by extending your arms and being able to pull towards you. All right, so Mrs. B will tell us when to start.
1, 2, 3, go.
All right, so that one, again, I almost pulled Mrs. B all the way into me. Again, I'm the bigger, stronger player. I outweigh Mrs. B by quite a bit, and since I'm working out a lot, I'm pretty strong. Mrs. B is also strong, but the size and weight advantage for me gives me a big advantage. So now we're going to give her a little bit more of an advantage. So she's going to get rid of her base, and she's going to go to a bigger base. So now she's going to have a hula hoop, and she's going to be able to move anywhere within that hula hoop. So this will give her the chance to really use her legs. Now, you don't want to stand with your legs next to each other in this one. If you have the advantage of using your legs, you want to line yourself up so you can use your whole body to pull. So this will give Mrs. B a bit more of an advantage over me. Now, if you don't have a hula hoop, just give yourself a little bigger area. So use a towel, whatever you can. All right, here we go. So we need to get the slack out again. And notice there's slack there. So Mrs. B, yes, needs to pull her side a little bit. So again, we'll let Mrs. B decide when to start on this one. And usually if you're playing against one person, you can just take turns. I'm going to let Mrs. B call it every time on this one.
1, 2, 3, go.
All right, so that time, I can definitely feel the strength difference with Mrs. B using her legs. She had me, I really had to get low, which will also help. When you lower your center of gravity, you should have a little bit better balance, but also you don't want to go way down here or you will lose your balance. All right, so I still got that battle. So now let's give Mrs. B even more area. She's going to get rid of the hula hoop, and now her area is going to be much bigger. She's going to have a territory now. Now the start of her territory will be this white line here, and then Mrs. B, if you could back up to the back of your territory. So she's already disappeared off camera there, way back there. So she can go anywhere in that area. Sorry, we're being attacked by an insect. Mrs. B does not like insects. All right, I think it went away. So she can go anywhere in that area. Now a strategy here would be, Mrs. B, go ahead and come forward to the start of the white line. If you have a big territory, you don't want to start there, because now if she just takes one step forward, she loses the battle because she left her area. So she's going to want to start where she did, in the middle of that area, and just adjust your rope accordingly. Now again, as the bigger, stronger player, I'm still on my base. So I still have 2 feet, and I'm still using 2 hands here. So here we go. And again, Mrs. B, you got to stop letting the slack go, please. Thank you. All right, so we need to keep the rope like this when we start the battle. Mrs. B keeps doing this. Okay, we cannot do that or we can't have a fair battle. All right, now also remember, so far we've really been pulling. Don't forget, you can give because your opponent can fall forward or backwards, and you can still win the battle. All right, so Mrs. B will tell us when to start again. We're both ready?
1, 2, 3, go.
See, I tried to trick Mrs. B on that one to see if she would go backwards. She didn't, and I ended up losing my balance forward. So Mrs. B got me on that one. So this has definitely equaled us out, it looks like. Giving her more area is a big advantage. All right, but we're going to show you some other ways, because maybe your mom or your dad, if they're playing against you, or your big brother or sister is still just has too much of an advantage. So we're going to allow Mrs. B to continue to use your area. I'm going to stay on my base, but now I'm going to go to just using one arm. So I'm going to go ahead and use this arm here so you can see that this arm's not being used. Then we'll take the slack out a little bit equal on each side. I still have to stay on my base and remain on my base the entire game, but now I only can use one arm. So I'm going to have to overpower Mrs. B with one arm or cause her to fall forwards or backwards. All right, so Mrs. B will tell us when to go.
1, 2, 3, go.
All right, so Mrs. B got me again. So notice we were kind of at a standstill, both pulling, and then Mrs. B smartly used the strategy of giving me a little rope, and that caused me to fall backwards off of my territory. So one arm is another way that you can weaken this bigger, stronger player. So let's show you one other way we can do this. I think Mrs. B's too strong to have an area now, so I'm going to weaken her back down now. So we're going to give her the hula hoop back. So she has too much of an advantage. I can't overcome it. So she's going to go and stay in the hula hoop, and I'm going to go to now, I'm going to use both arms this time, But now this time I'm going to stay on one foot. So if you're the bigger, stronger player, see if you can do it on one foot. Because since balance is a big part of this challenge, being on one foot limits your balance. It's going to definitely make it harder to balance. All right, so let's see if I can do it with one leg. All right, so Mrs. B will tell us when to go.
1, 2, 3, go! Oh!
All right, we both fell down, but she fell first. I definitely got that one. And that will sometimes happen. When one player falls, the other player may fall as well, but it's whoever leaves their area first. So again, I definitely ended up on the ground on my gluteus maximus, but her feet touched outside of the hula hoop first. So that was a very even battle. She has a little bigger area than I do. I have a smaller area, but I went to 1 foot, and that one was really, really close. Okay, so those are some of the different modifications you can make. Bigger, stronger player, make their area smaller. Smaller player, give them a bigger area. Go to one arm, go to 1 foot, and that should allow everybody in the family to play together and just figure out what modifications you need to make it kind of even. Now, if you modify it so much that the same person wins every time, that also won't be fun and won't be challenging. So try to make it so it's equal. Both players are equally challenged, and most importantly, everybody has fun and improves their balance, their strength, and then once we get back to school, we can challenge other students and we can challenge other players, or as the summer progresses, maybe you can invite some friends over and do that, assuming this pandemic ends. All right, everybody, so have fun with the one-on-one tug of war challenge. We had a good time. Hope you do as well.